We should be very proud to say, that we are the safest community for a jurisdiction of our size in the country. And that is largely thanks to the work of the men and women for our police department, our sheriff's department, our public safety communications, and of course our fire and rescue departments.
Audio Jungle.
Hello and welcome to Business Focus, produced by the Greater Reston Chamber of Commerce. My name is Angela Inzerillo with Impact Business Solutions, and I'm privileged to be your host as we highlight the great work our local businesses are doing. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a second to thank you for being here. You know, we're growing our channel. We're sharing some great stories within Reston, within Greater Fairfax, and I am just so excited for you to be here. So anyway, you can share and like what we're doing. We'd appreciate it because we've got great stories, great members, great nonprofits, and doing some wonderful things that we just want the community to know about and be a part of. So I appreciate that. And again, one of our favorite people in the community is here with us today to share a great story, an event that the Chamber is hosting in a few weeks' time. Mr. Dominic Bonaiuto with INOVA. He is on their government and community team. Dominic, welcome and thanks for being here.
Thanks so much, Angela. Appreciate the opportunity and appreciate your time.
Yeah, I didn't realize how involved you were with the Fairfax County Valor Awards. This year, we're celebrating our 47th year. So we're excited to share that with the community and what we're doing, who it's a part of, and how they can support it. But yeah, I mean, first of all, Dominic, you know, you're doing so many things. You know, I forget that you actually have a job.
Yes.
But you do. So what, other than being on the board of the chamber, a recent chair of a leadership Fairfax, and I'm sure 1,000 other things. Why don't you share really quickly kind of what you do over at INOVA?
Sure. No, I appreciate that. As you said, I'm on the government and community relations team for INOVA Health System. The Reston community, of course, we've got the Reston emergency room. We've got an urgent care, a number of primary practices. And then the closest hospital is probably Fair Oaks,
Yes.
just down the street. We've got 5 hospitals around the region with INOVA, and we're building our 6th as we speak. So we're growing the system. We're actually building 2 hospitals at the same time. We're replacing the old Alexandria Hospital, and we're replacing that at the Landmark Mall. And then
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah. So 2/3 of the existing Alexandria Hospital going to Landmark Mall, and then about 1/3 of it is going down into the Franconia Springfield community in Fairfax County. So we're very excited about that, and just to be, growing the organization and serving the need. I mean, there's no shortage of demand for healthcare services. So, in my role with government community relations, I'm out sort of as the external face of the organization with our local state government partners, community partners like the Chamber, and a lot of our nonprofit partners who help support and make up the safety net here in this community. I mean, we provide a lot of the, of course, the basic healthcare services, but when you talk about food insecurity, housing, and other types of support, we rely on the nonprofit community to really assist us and the rest of the community with that.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for what you do. Yeah, like I said, I didn't really realize that you were as involved with the Fairfax County Valor Awards as long. They started in 1979, is what you shared. The Chamber recently took them over. So for those of you that may not be aware of what the Fairfax County Valor Awards, and I know they do them in other counties as well, but can you share a little bit about this? Because it's just such a wonderful event. It's such a wonderful recognition of our first responders. So what are the awards themselves?
Yeah, no, appreciate that. Like you said, we've been doing this for some time. We as collectively as a region, right? So originally started with the then Fairfax County Chamber 9, and some years later the Fairfax Chamber transitioned to the Northern Virginia Chamber, and more recently the awards themselves have transitioned to under our stewardship at the Greater Reston Chamber. We're really proud to carry this forward in this tradition. And really, this is an opportunity for us as a community to recognize our first responders for the work they've done throughout the year. The chairman of the Fairfax County Board and members of the Board of Supervisors are very proud, and as are we. We should be very proud to say, that we are the safest community for a jurisdiction of our size in the country. And that is largely thanks to the work of the men and women for our police department, our sheriff's department, our public safety communications, and of course our fire and rescue departments. Again, people sort of have an idea of what they do on a day-to-day basis, but there are, I would say, feats large and small that happen on a daily basis that really, make you proud to be in this community and support them. So this is an opportunity for us to single out some of those episodes and make sure they feel recognized and understand that we as a community are paying attention and recognize this is a partnership and a collaboration and want to be supportive of them.
Yeah, 100%. Having been a part of it, fortunately, as a past chair, honestly, it was eye-opening, Dominic, to be involved in the process of selection. And, for me, and we could talk a little bit about like the different levels, but I just felt like everybody should get a gold medal, all of these cases that were submitted and reviewed. But, again, part of this is just like what they do every single day. So I don't want to take it for granted. And that's why I think this is such an important conversation to really understand and respect what these folks are doing day in, day out. And I'm glad you mentioned the call center, the 911, having heard some of the calls, having like listened to some of the stories. It definitely gives me chills. So let's talk a little bit about that selection process you mentioned. So what is it? The chiefs, they submit these cases annually, and then they're reviewed.
Each of the agencies, correct. Each of the agencies reviews, their sort of more involved cases on an annual basis, and they put forward a number of nominations. Each of the services does. And then the chamber has an award selection committee. We've got about a dozen members of the selection committee some have been on it for a number of years, carried over from prior administration of the awards to now. And we try to keep a sort of a level of continuity there. We've got one of the physicians who serves as the sort of the physician for the police and fire departments, which is incredibly helpful. And then we have each of the chiefs, either the chiefs themselves participate or one of their leaders serve as sort of an advisory role to help us as we go through and assess the cases, to provide a little more context if one of the nominations is lacking. And as you say, I mean, it really is eye-opening. I mean, if you're a regular consumer of the news, you're seeing these things on TV on a regular basis or reading about them. But this is sort of, they give you a little bit the rest of the story, if you will, right? And you may remember, I remember hearing about this, but you didn't, you don't have the context for how big of a thing it was, or how much of a challenge it was, or how in real risk or peril, the community members were, or the first responders themselves and the situations they were dealing with. And like as you said, it's an eye-opener, and some of them are incredibly harrowing. I mean, it's the conditions and the situations with which we ask our responders to put themselves, there is a lot of risk, and there's some sacrifice, of course, they make for, their family and time and all that. And, it's just, it's a tremendous calling, and, we're proud to be able to recognize that.
Oh, absolutely. And, just hearing some of the stories and listening to the case, we'll call them cases. There's certain things that a fireman is trained to do, a woman is trained to do. And, one story I heard years ago was, you got a fireman policeman who's doing the work of a fireman. They're not trained. They don't have the equipment. But what is, their number one goal is to provide safety. And I know we've awarded, I know you can't share it probably if we've got any canines to recognize this year, but I also know that they've recognized canines in the past, right?
Yeah, in years past, we have recognized canines. The awards, the presentation is a lunch, and the canine officers are really the hit of the lunch. So everybody wants to get their picture taken with the dogs. So that's always fun. And so the cases themselves, I mean, they range from, what could be sort of a response to someone who's experiencing a cardiac arrest, which is a real legitimate medical emergency for the individual, their family, and the officer in the moment, right? Time is of the essence in responding to something like that, to, officers who are responding to traffic accidents. And some accidents are just sort of fender benders where the officer is responding, but we've reviewed cases in the past where there have been multiple car accidents on one of the major highways, and you've got a tractor trailer that's overturned or fuel that's been spilled, and they're dealing with multiple challenges out in the roadway. Unfortunately, there are very serious cases sometimes where, an officer has to use their weapon, or a weapon is used against them, or firefighters are going into buildings or homes that are actively under fire, and putting themselves at risk as they try to save occupants or pets in some cases. I will say one of the great cases that we have this year that we're not having the pet there, but there was a fire and rescue response to a dog who fell through the ice on the Potomac and during the wintertime. Not once, but twice he had to be saved. So it was a bit comical after, looking back after the fact, but it was a very long response where they had to
Oh yeah.
go find the dog, try to coax him off the ice. He fell through the ice. They had to go save him, got him back. He escaped, fell through the ice again. So there are those, sort of lighthearted. It was a very serious case, of course, but those are sort of the heartwarming cases that sort of mix in with the real sort of stuff you might see on on one of your nightly, cop or police dramas. They're like, wow, some of this stuff actually does happen in
It
the real
does
world.
happen, right? I know a lot of the cases, there's like life saving, there's certificates of valor, and then there's the medals, the actual bronze, silver, and gold.
Yeah.
And I know it's hard to achieve. And I know each one is with a level of risk and it's very difficult. And I'm sure as a committee member, you've definitely got a lot of different viewpoints weighing in. Like I said, as a layman, gold, give them gold. Everyone deserves gold, right? And then
Yeah,
you've
exactly.
got
Well,
the,
as you said, it's hard when you're weighing them because you do want to recognize each of these individuals for sort of their bravery and heroism and just sort of presence of mind in the moment to use their training and put their skills to work immediately. And I guess that's the benefit of having the institutional memory and having the chiefs along with us, because they help provide some context. Like there are times where we'll be like, we believe it's this, and then one of the chiefs will say, well, that's really a bit more of a routine thing. It happens more often than you think. This episode, this particular case is a little bit elevated because of this nuance, but this kind of thing happens more often than not. So that helps keep us in some parameters.
sure.
The levels of recognition. The most awards are provided at the life saving and the certificate of valor level, just because they are sort of just above sort of the normal routine daily call of duty and daily routine for the officers and the firefighters. And then when you get to the medal levels, you sort of see the sort of higher profile, higher risk involved incidents, and the tiers, they go up in terms of the amount of risk that an officer or a firefighter or a sheriff's deputy is in based on the situation that they're facing. And then the gold medal, of course, is our highest standard. We are limited just as part of the program. We only try to award one per agency per year, and in some years there have not been a gold medal awarded. Again, because we've been fortunate enough to not have an incident that rises to that level. We said at the outset, we're incredibly fortunate. We read about other communities on a daily basis here in the DMV or across the country where they're having very serious crimes, and some of that we're just incredibly fortunate that we don't see the volume of that here.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I know you heard about the cases this year, and I'm sure there's some really warm stories that we'll hear when the event comes up. I will say the Chamber puts on a number of signature events throughout the year that are the gamut from, our golf event to our lovely Ethics Day, right? Our celebration that we have for our members. This event, when you're in the room with that many uniforms and the families, and yes, there's a lot of dignitaries and there's our sponsors, but to be in that room, I hope that they feel our appreciation. And I know that a lot of them, this is kind of what they do, and they're sitting there going, why am I getting recognized? But just know that we want to recognize. So let's talk a little bit about the logistics and how maybe those folks watching can get involved, because like I said, it's definitely chilling when you're there, and being a part of it is something that I'll remember forever. But this year we're at the Westfields Marriott, right?
Correct. New venue for us. We are the Greater Reston Chamber, but we are hosting the Fairfax County Valor Awards, recognizing officers and firefighters and sheriff's deputies and the 911 dispatch call takers from across the county for all the incidents. So
Yep.
We always look for something, a location that's a little more central or that provides more access to the rest of the county. This year we just happen to be in Western Fairfax at the Westfields Marriott, great venue, and hope folks can come out. As you mentioned, just a moment ago, I mean, the ceremony itself really is special. The families add a really different dynamic to it. I know we spoke earlier about the canine officers and all of that, but it's the family dynamic that really makes this a special event, because we'll pack the room with 500 plus individuals, mostly are first responders in uniform with their families. And for their families, I mean, these are their sacrifices of time and just a lot of stuff that they're giving up with their loved one, responding and being on duty within our community. And they may not hear about these things when they go home, because maybe whoever is going home, they don't want to unload all that on their spouse or their significant other or their loved one. And so it's really neat to sort of bring them here and have them be part of the recognition. It is neat, like you said. I mean, prior to my current role, I was a journalist by trade when I first moved here in the late 90s, and I covered the Valor Awards at the time. And I would say the Valor Awards are easily one of the top events that we host here in the region. Whether you, like you said, whether it's ours, the Great Reston Chamber, or one that happens in one of the neighboring counties, I think it's such a a compelling recounting of some of these events, and it's the community really wanting to embrace the first responders, let them know how much they are appreciated, and to recognize them. And like you said, I know a number of first responders. They're all like, as you say, they're for them. This is what we do. I don't need a lunch or an award, but that's we need to single people out and make sure they know they're appreciated, and let them know that this is not routine. What they're doing,
Right.
sometimes what they're doing is not routine, and we just appreciate what they're doing.
Celebrate in other ways too. I know that there are some times when, the Chiefs do convince you, okay, they don't need to win an award, whatever, but yet they do say, hey, by the way, we do have department awards as well. So it's not like they're not getting recognized, but this is just that next level of valor, right?
Yeah. Well, each of the agencies, has their own awards, and they have professional awards they do, annually. But yeah, this is something that really comes from the community. I mean, it's evaluated by the community and sort of driven by the community from the and large support thanks to the business community. Like you said, I mean, this has been housed within the chamber for since its inception. I'll take personal license and say at 47, I don't know any of the other chambers locally that have been doing it as long as we have. So, this tradition in Fairfax, endures, and for a reason, because the business community is very much invested in partnering with our public safety community, and the recognition that in addition to our tremendous schools, having a safe community, having access to healthcare, and all the things that make Fairfax County the most attractive community which people want to live and do business, it all plays a role in that. So we want to make sure that's recognized.
Well, that is beautifully stated, Dominic. Wonderfully stated, and it's very, very true. So, just logistically, as we round this up, April 7th, Westfield's Marriott. It's a luncheon, 11:30 to 2. Sponsorships are available. We'll put that link at restonchamber.org. You can check it out anywhere from, just like you said, adopting. And I've done that. I know I was traveling one year and I couldn't. I was like, no, but I want to be there. And they get, if you adopt a responder, right, you get a little card that recognizes you as a person, an individual, to say, hey, I sponsored your lunch today.
Yeah, sponsor opportunities are available. We will welcome people's interest from you could be a program sponsor, depending on the level of capacity and interest, down to a table sponsor, to sponsoring an individual responder and their family. If you want to just provide a meal for the responder and their guest, you're welcome to do that. INOVA is proud to be a sponsor, as are the other hospital systems. I will say that, in the continuum of care for these incidents, we've in recent years, we've added the 911 dispatch callers, as you mentioned. I mean, they're truly getting some of these initial calls, providing the dispatch, then the first responders arrive. And in many cases, the care continues as folks have to be transported to the hospital. And there's sort of a warm handoff at each of these, points of inflection. And so we're proud to be, a part of that and partner with them. And just I think this is a great event and a great opportunity to be involved in the community. So would invite, anyone who's interested, from, business down to an individual, to take a look at the Greater Reston Chamber website, look at the Valor Awards. There are multiple levels to be engaged. And as Angela said, right down just to, providing a lunch, even anonymously, to a first responder.
Yeah, I've reached out to several restaurants because how many times am I going to a local restaurant and I'm like, they're my first responders and I thank them every day. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this restaurant should thank them every day and be recognized. It is one thing about sponsoring is being recognized. I get that, but it's also just appreciating, the service, but also the fact that they're patronizing their restaurants too. So Mr. Bonaiuto. Inzerillo, Bonaiuto. I am sure we're related somehow back in
Sounds
Palermo,
right.
but it was fabulous having you today. Thank you for sharing this great story. Thank you for your leadership within the chamber and also chairing the committee that puts this great event on. All that you do for the chamber, all you do for the community, all you do for INOVA. So thank you, sir, for being here.
Thank you. I will say I'm happy to serve on the committee. I'm not chair of the committee right now. We have a wonderful chairman from Visit Fairfax, Barry Bigger.
Barry,
Barry,
Mr. Bigger.
also serves as our MC from time to time.
Yes.
Barry has been with the awards program for a number of years and is a tremendous steward of this and the awards. So
yeah, Visit Fairfax is another fantastic sponsor too, and we love Barry too. So, I just gave you it. You're VP. Just be co-chair. Don't tell anyone. You'll be fine. Anyway, you still put a lot of work into it. Co-chair. All right, Dominic. Again, it was great seeing you, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you so much, Angela.
Thank you for being here today. We look forward to seeing you on our next episode. Stay in touch with us for future episodes. Like, subscribe, and share. See you next time.